Welcome back guys, my name is Abraham Akwai, and on this video I'm gonna be teaching how to create your application. It can be a mobile, it can be a desktop, it can be a web application. These are the steps that you need to take in order to build your application. So on this video I'm gonna be demonstrating, I'm not necessarily demonstrating, but explaining to you every situation. As you can see, this thing on the screen, I've put some steps on which they are to be followed in order to build an application. But let's remember something: everyone can build an application, but not everyone can build an application with an effective time and then build a good code inside of it. Meaning a code, build an application that can be maintained and then that is properly structured and then all that thing. So that's why we need to follow some specific steps in order to be able to achieve all those things. So this is what this video is about. So without any waste of time, let's jump into the step. So before we build an application, we first need to understand what problem are we solving. To do that, we need to understand the process of doing that thing, because a problem contains specific steps. In this case, I'll be using a business process as a form of like a problem. It can be a business problem process like a recruitment process. Like, within a company, when we recruit a person, there are specific procedures that need to be followed. We can be doing headhunting, which is simple. We target a specific person, or it can be in a form of like we just send an application to a large group of people on which we create a post, we receive some resumes, we process the resumes, we do first selection, we process another second group of resumes, and then we finally produce the outcome and then decide who to recruit. So you can see that thing is a process itself. So the business process will be more of like identifying all those steps and then trying to simplify those steps through your application, if it makes sense. So that's the first thing. So from then you identify the process. Okay, the first step is what? Is okay, there needs to be, you determine the type of recruitment that you want to do. It can be internal, it can be from the outside, it can be headhunting. It depends on the type of sourcing. So you give whoever's going to be using this application an option to choose the type of recruitment they want to do. You get what I'm saying, right? You get where I'm going. Okay, so once you have identified the process of the recruitment, then you go to the next part on which you build what your use cases. So use cases are basically, I'm probably going to be showing you more of like pictures of how they look like as time goes by on the video. So use cases are more of like you put your users aside, like apart from each other, and then from each user you specify what they actually do, the operation they apply to the system. Let me make an example. So if we were to build a recruitment process application, and which is about finding a person to hire, the HR person needs to choose what the type of recruitment that they want to do. Meaning, it can be what? It can be internal, that means within the business, and then other types of recruitment, right? That thing already, we can see that we do have a user on which is what? An HR person. And then this HR person is going to be using the system. And then the first use case is what? Select type of recruitment. So you can see now you are breaking this whole process into different small functions. Then we move to the next part on which now we build application requirements. So by application requirements, this is where we get in detail about what is actually happening. So for example, when this person selects a recruitment, the type of recruitment that they want to do, you specify, okay, I want to pull this kind of a form. Like, you get in detail of how your application is going to process this whole thing. Let me make another example. Let's say the HR is clicking on a button of like do internal recruitment. So the first thing you want your application to do is what? To pull a list of all the employees within the organization and then present them to what? To the user or the HR person. And then from there, it is also best that when you pull those list of employees that work within the business, you pull relevant people, meaning you pull people who might be within a specific department of the organization. Because if you want to hire a software developer or software engineer, we can't be pulling everyone that works within the system. I mean the business. We have to pull people who are what? Who are probably like interns or junior software developers, and then present them to what? To an HR, or even those who are already software engineers, and then present them to the HR, if it makes sense. So this is where we explain what is going to happen. We write the instructions down of how the application is going to process the input from the user. So once we understand this whole thing, we know that okay, this is the type of data that we need. We need what? We need to design our database. So let's go back to the example of what? Of the HR. So within the application, an organization does have a lot of HR members, right? So it is important to know what? That within this application, since this application it is strictly based on HR, the recruitment process, remember that. And the recruitment process, it has a what? It has a user on which is what? It's an HR. What we're going to do is that we're going to create a table or a database table on which this table is going to be having what? An entity that is strictly about HR members of the organization. It contains information about HR. Then we move to the next part on which it contains what? Employees. Why we need employees is because, remember when we said, if we're ever going to be doing internal, meaning we want to hire someone who's already within the business, we need to know all the people within the business. Meaning our application should have what? Data about people who work within the business. And then remember something, there's a lot of people within the business, meaning a specific person might have their own department. Meaning also, we might try to create, I don't know, some, like it gives you an instruction, like we can create an employee table on which our employee table has what? Has a department. Or we can create our department table on which this department table contains what? The name and then the ID. And then this name is going to be linked, or the ID is going to be linked to a specific what? To a specific employee. So that it'll be easy for us to what? To query based on what? The department they work on. Like, does it make sense? Then with what? So since we know data, and then from the application requirements, basically, you can start, according to your understanding, you can either do both at the same time, design your database and also create the UI. Because from the application requirements, you already understand how your application is going to work. Meaning, when you create your requirements, you can actually see that, okay, when the HR is going to the screen or the landing page, they're going to be provided with probably 3 radio buttons on which will be internal, headhunting, outside, or outside sourcing. And then once they click on one of the radio buttons, and then you move, it's like you can see how the process is going to be like on your application. Then you design based on that, right? Then once your design is there, your application design is there, your interface is there, what do? You start building your application. You have everything that you need. You have the steps from the application requirements. You have the design on which it shows you how to structure a database. You also have the layout, the UI of how your application is going to look like. Application process is going to be fast. I'm telling you on that one. And then once you're done building your application, you need to test your application based on what? The requirements or the process, what was expected from the application. Then you check if however it is doing what is expected from it. Finally, once the testing part is done, then you deploy your application. Now, those HR people can now use the application. Then you have finally completed your project. That's what it takes to build an application. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Thank you for watching. See you in the next upcoming videos. Cheers.